Okay, so we're now going to writing the title. So at the end of this session, you will learn what constitutes a good title, examples of weak and improved titles, and how to write research titles. Okay, so these are the things that you need to remember. It summarizes the main idea of the study, uh, first impression of a scientific paper, or maybe a paper in general, per part of the paper that is read the most, no? So the research title is what is not one but really the most read part, no, of a research. Then working title and final title. What constitute a good title? Okay, first, short and simple and clear, no? Then it's direct to the point. It does not use a lot of adjectives, no? Yeah, it does not use a lot of adjective. It's very, very literal, informative, no? Should contain the important ideas and concepts. It's not something like you will have to have your readers guess what you're talking about or what your research is all about, no? So, attractive and powerful, declarative and makes a bold statement. For me, as my practice with the published articles I have and presented in some conferences, sometimes my titles are long because there are some concepts that requires more words in order for them to be properly stated, no? uh, some are not so long, but they have to be literal, no? Sometimes if you are being conflicted with what's very sophisticated and what is comprehensible or understandable, uh, and simple, then go with the simple. Do not be so highfalutin that your readers won't understand already your title. Okay? And the other one is it should cater to the audience. Don't be too technical, like jargon ridden, because there are some research that are so specialized, no? Like maybe science researches and some maybe business practices also research. So there are if you can use common versions of the words or common word, there are more common words than the technical words, then use it. Okay, so what are in a title? The first is topic, no? So this can be made into a diagram. So what is the research about? So specific and agenda based, no? So later on you will have the diagram. The second is the sample or the respondents, no? So the research involves who, particularly from which type of people or which type of sources are you getting it from. Then possible results or method, no? So outcomes of the research, these may be analysis, assessment, evaluation, or the developed tool or output of the study like manual, policy, framework, or curriculum. Okay. Okay. Before we go to the diagram, okay, common words used for methods, no? You have assessment, evaluation, mapping, developing, reconfiguration, adaptation, designing, intervention, approach, enhancing, tool, effectiveness, impact, comparative analysis, perception, discourse, relationship, case study. Just want to make clarification on impact and effect. No, I did not mention the word effect. But anyhow, when you talk about impact, it is something that has changed massively, no, the lives of people or a certain area. So, for example, in pandemic, you cannot measure most probably, no, some aspects of changes about pandemic, not yet impact, no, but effects maybe, no. Kasi yung ano naman natin, pandemic, I mean its effect can be seen, but the impact it's premature yet, no. Maybe after a few years you would see some impacts, maybe in terms of mental health or a healthcare system or our uh, business sector or agricultural sector, the impact, the better, I mean, it takes a few years before it gets to be measured, no? Because maybe the changes are temporary, so it may not be gauged as something that is impactful. Okay, so we're gonna revolve our diagram onto these two titles, no? Women displaced educators during pandemic, economic effects, and business adaptation. So the other one is narratives of bilingual parents on the real-life use of English language, materials for English language teaching curriculum. So, uh, in the first title on women displaced educators, you can identify the topic, no, what is the topic about, and who are involved, no, for the study. And of course, sometimes it's already implicit, no. Are you doing an assessment? Are you doing an evaluation, etc., etc. No. So you don't put it already in the title. You can discuss it anyway in the scope or in the paper. So, an example here is insight to action-oriented research to develop a curriculum for the institution. It's kind of weak. I think it's too long and you can shorten it. There are words that are repetitive and you can simplify it. So, an action research approach to curriculum development. So, things to avoid, too long, usually 18 words is enough, no? Except for, of course, there are exceptions, especially if it's proper noun and it needs to be spelled out, no? Too short, baka it may not have all the ingredients, the topic, the samples, and the method. Then humorous and emotional words. But right now, I think that's part of their strategy, no, to attract readers. They can have already humorous and emotional words. It's okay maybe to some extent, but you avoid it if it means misleading your audience, no? So if you're using humorous or attractive or appealing words, then make it also very clear and simple. Then use of jargons or slang, that's not allowed in making research unless your study is about jargons or the slang in itself. Okay. There are two titles still on these examples, no? The first is Inquiry and Evaluation of Decision Making Skills of Hospitality Management Graduates. And the other one is Displaced Women Educators During Pandemic. So, economic effects and business adaptation, no? So this is the diagram that I'm talking about. So the first is topic or subject, then sample or who, then possible results or method, no? So in the first topic, decision making skills, that's the what, no, or the topic in the research, in the title. Of course, the ones involved are hospitality management graduates, and the other one is on the possible results or method, inquiry and evaluation, no? Inquiry and evaluation. Of course, the other one is effects, economic effects and business administration. That's the what. Who are involved, displaced women educators, and it's an assessment, no? So for you guys, it would be easier if you do this diagram. What is the what, the subject or the topic, then what is the sample and who, then what is the possible results or method. Because if you would notice with the diagram, they are very specific. Okay? If you talk about decision-making skills on title number 1, you have to be specific as to which persons or respondents are you going to get it from. So it's specifically for hospitality management graduates, no? So very specific. Okay? Another thing is the subject can also be very specific, no? So it's not just skills, any skills, no? I mean, there are many skills that hospitality management graduates uh, uh, learn, no, from their schooling. But what specific skills? So we're talking about decision making skills, not cooking skills or frontline desk skills, etc. It's a specific skill. So even the topic, guys, you have to be very specific. Okay? So with regards to uh, the displaced women educators, it's not just any form of effects, it's economic effects, no? The specific. It's not just about any form of adaptation, but business adaptation. Okay? So things are very specific in research. You cannot say, okay, the effect of displaced on pandemic to the displaced women educators. No, there are too many. No, so you have to be very specific and break down what is very broad. No, so that's the very very simple tip. No, for doing the what and the sample. Okay. In the sample, of course, you know very well that you cannot have everyone as your respondents. You have to be very specific. And like for example, this your what has to be very suitable and very compatible to your who, because decision making skills may not be available to grade schoolers. You cannot have them as your respondents, no? It may not be hospitality management graduates, but they should have the what, no? The suitability or compatibility of the what. So maybe decision-making skills of leaders, no? Uh, government heads of offices. Okay? So, but my tip is this diagram is very, very important. So, use this when you try to make your title. Okay, these are the references.